So 3 days after New Zealand withdrew from their limited overs tour to Pakistan at the very last minute, England too have now pulled out of their limited overs tours in October to Pakistan, and I'm going to voice my thoughts regarding all of that and everything that has transpired since on this volume of CRIQAZI Diaries.
Have a look at that, Miles up, oh, it's nearly taken someone out in the stands. That was a flat six right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members, and it went like a rocket. Well, we get to 24.
So England's men's team was set to tour Pakistan in mid-October for two T20 internationals in the build-up to the T20 World Cup, and the women's team was actually set to embark on their first ever tour to the country, which would have been an historic event, but the ECB has pulled out on both fronts, which was kind of expected, but I would be lying if I said that my heart did not break a little bit further. Now, the fact that the ECB has cited COVID bubble fatigue as the main reason behind their withdrawal is especially infuriating, because Pakistan had toured England twice during the pandemic, saving the ECB millions of dollars in revenue and broadcasting, especially that first tour in summer 2020 when COVID was at its peak in the United Kingdom and also no vaccinations existed at that point in the world. Due to this very reality, the statement from the ECB comes across as extremely tone deaf, and the PCB have every right to be disappointed, especially because the British High Commission had given the ECB a green signal to travel to Pakistan as far as security was concerned, and also all of the security personnel hired for this very purpose, including Reg Dickerson, they also gave ECB the green signal as well. So security clearly was not the issue. I mean, the royal family toured Pakistan under the same security arrangements, which are termed, by the way, by some as the best in the world, not too long ago, for crying out loud. So if Pakistan is safe for William and Kate and all of those English players that play the PSL, then why not the national team? Surely England could have assembled a 14 to 15 man squad from their reserves, even if their main players chose to play the IPL instead or just wanted to take a break from the COVID bubble life, but that didn't happen either. I mean, it was a 4-day tour, for heaven's sake, and even the English High Commissioner in Islamabad said that he tried really hard to get the England team to Pakistan for cricket, and also said that he would double his efforts now to get international cricket back to Pakistan. So the ECB clearly is at fault over here, and they turned their back on one of their closest allies in their hour of need. Pakistan helped both England and New Zealand, toured England twice in fact, during the pandemic, made sure that their boards do not incur any losses and the international game remained healthy. So to say that they have been let down when the tables turned is an absolute understatement. As a result, the PCB is set to suffer losses of around 15 to 25 million US dollars, not to mention the reputational damage that has also occurred. So really, they've been left high and dry by cricketing boards that were their supposed allies. All in all, this has been an extremely harsh lesson for the PCB, and it's imperative for them to re-strategize and almost reinvent the wheel with respect to strengthening their cricket economy. Apart from, of course, solidifying the domestic structure, I feel Pakistan now needs to create a new bloc of cricketing countries which will look after each other and can be relied upon. These countries include nations which have helped Pakistan in the past, such as South Africa, West Indies, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, and it could also potentially include Afghanistan and Ireland. This alliance should by no means be made with the intent to counter the big three or four. There should be no boycotting of those countries. That will achieve nothing. And there should be no us versus them narrative over here. All of these other countries that Pakistan should strengthen their bonds with should be allowed to play cricket with anyone they wish to, and so should Pakistan for that matter. For instance, if England, New Zealand or Australia invite Pakistan to tour, then they should definitely go ahead with that. It's only that if either of these nations demand that Pakistan moves their home series to a neutral venue, that should be completely off the table and they should simply decline. In fact, not only should they decline, they should have contingency plans in place for when this happens, because I'm very confident it will, given that the precedent has been set, and Pakistan needs to ensure that its cricketing calendar is not compromised and they play cricket throughout the year without the fear of stoppage. And ladies and gentlemen, if that means inviting the same few countries over and over to play cricket at home, then so be it. What Pakistan can't do is revert back to playing their home cricket on neutral venues, especially given how much hard work the PCB has put in over all these years to revitalize international cricket within Pakistani borders. One positive, I suppose, in this situation is that Ramiz Raja and Wasim Khan are at the helm of all of this mess as PCB chairman and CEO respectively, and their responses thus far have been spot on, holding pretty much the same stance that I have held in this entire video. I have the utmost confidence in both of these men to steer this ship and drag us out of this hole, representing Pakistan with the kind of dignity and integrity that this great cricketing nation warrants. I would also like to point out the hypocrisy and double standards that were on display over here, as the third ODI between England and New Zealand's women's teams was under a security threat as well, but was played regardless. So my question here to the New Zealand Cricket Board and Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, a woman who I, by the way, very much respect, is that were the lives of New Zealand's women cricketers worth less than those of their male counterparts? There is an air of sexism in this particular episode which reeks of male privilege. And if not that, surely white privilege, because security threats are only credible when they're on Asian soil, isn't it? And I mean, New Zealand didn't even bother to share the intel regarding the security threats with Pakistan, even after having left the country, a country which apparently is still at risk. So quite evidently, brown lives don't matter as much, do they? You can of course see my full reaction video on New Zealand's last minute withdrawal and the impact it's said to have on Pakistan cricket in volume 44. I'll leave a link for you in the description below, so if you haven't seen that already, do check it out. Now take a second and imagine what would have happened had Jarvo invaded the pitch 3 times in Pakistan as opposed to England. I'll tell you, all hell would have broken loose and the touring team would have been on the next flight out. I guess another positive is that this hypocrisy is being pointed out vocally by the British media as well, with renowned journalists George Dobell and Peter Osborne leading the way, along with former cricketers and pundits Mike Atherton and Mark Butcher. Now before I end this video, I want to send a message to all Pakistan fans that the national T20 starts on September 23rd and all of Pakistan's top players are set to feature in the tournament. So please support the tournament with the same vigor and passion that you support the national team with, because this is our players' last chance to get some match practice before the T20 World Cup, and here's to hoping they can achieve that. You've really got to feel for the Pakistan players because they had 7 T20 internationals lined up in the build-up to the T20 World Cup, and they've been robbed of each and every one of those games. So show them your love and your support, and I'm sure that they'll be fired up to perform and give it everything on the field. And of course, they are meeting Prime Minister Imran Khan and Ramiz Raja prior to this tournament. And I'm sure both of those guys, who are so vocal themselves, will definitely be igniting the fire in the bellies, which is already there as a result of all of this disappointment. And they'll be riling up those boys to translate all of this frustration into their performances on the pitch in the T20 World Cup. That'll be a wrap for volume 45, folks. And like, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like it or subscribe. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm still very much heartbroken and I can't wait for the national T20 to start so I can shift my focus back on cricket. But anyway, if you listen to my entire rant, thank you once again. I'll see you when I see you. That's all for now. Kazi off the mic.
Have a look at that. Miles up. Oh, it's nearly taken someone out of the stands. That was a flat 6 right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members.